A struggling single father finds a lost dog belonging to a powerful billionaire. Cameras roll as she offers him $1 million, but he shocks the world when he says no. What could make a man refuse the kind of money that would change his entire life? His answer stuns everyone and sparks a chain of events no one could have imagined. Because behind the headlines, a lonely billionaire with everything money can buy discovers the one thing she's never had. And an innocent little girl with the purest faith whispers a prayer that just might come true. But when the world turns against them, when pride, rumors, and power threaten to tear them apart, will love be strong enough to bridge the gap between two completely different worlds? Or will his greatest act of sacrifice become the reason he loses everything? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun painted gold streaks across the worn linoleum floor as Caleb Turner bent over the kitchen sink, scrubbing last night's dishes with practiced efficiency. His weathered hands moved in steady rhythm while bacon sizzled in the pan behind him. The small kitchen carried the comfortable chaos of their daily routine. Lily's school papers scattered across the table, her half-eaten toast abandoned for more pressing matters. "Daddy, where's my purple hair tie?" Lily's voice drifted from the hallway. "Check the bathroom counter, sweetheart." The radio hummed from its perch on the windowsill, the morning host's voice filling the gaps between father and daughter's morning dance. Caleb flipped the bacon, glancing at the clock. 7:15. Right on schedule. Continues to captivate the nation as billionaire heiress Victoria Hale increases the reward for her missing therapy dog to $1 million. The golden retriever, named Bentley, disappeared from the Hale estate 3 weeks ago. Caleb reached for the volume knob, turning it down. $1 million for a dog. He shook his head, returning to the dishes. Some folks lived in a different universe entirely. Lily bounded into the kitchen, purple tie securing her ponytail, backpack bouncing against her small frame. She grabbed the toast, taking a proper bite this time. "Did you hear that, Daddy? $1 million. Her eyes sparkled with the wonder only children possessed. "That poor lady must really love her dog." "Reckon she does." Caleb set a plate of bacon and scrambled eggs before her. "Now, eat up. Bus comes in 20 minutes. Lily chewed thoughtfully, then set down her fork. "Can we pray for the dog to come home?" Caleb paused, dish towel in hand. His daughter's earnest brown eyes, so like her mother's, waited for his answer. "Course we can, baby girl." They bowed their heads together, Lily's small voice carrying the prayer. "Dear God, please help that lady's dog find its way home. She must be so sad without him." "Amen. Amen." Caleb kissed the top of her head, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "Now finish your breakfast." The day unfolded in its familiar pattern. After seeing Lily onto the school bus, Caleb headed to his shift at the hardware store. His knee ached, rain coming, most likely, but he pushed through inventory and customer service with the quiet determination that had carried him through worse. By evening, the spring air had cooled, carrying the promise of the storm his knee had predicted. "Can we stop at the park?" Lily tugged his hand as they walked home from her after-school program. "Just for a few minutes? Please?" The park sat empty, the other families already home for dinner. Caleb settled onto a bench, watching Lily pump her legs on the swing, her laughter mixing with the creak of chains. The approaching clouds painted the sky purple-gray, but he gave her these stolen moments of joy whenever possible. 5 more minutes, Lilybug." She jumped from the swing, landing in the sand with practiced grace. "I'm gonna check the butterfly garden." Caleb followed at a distance, hands in his jacket pockets. The butterfly garden was really just a patch of wildflowers the town had planted near the walking trail, but Lily treated it like sacred ground. She crouched among the blooms, studying each flower with scientific intensity. A sound drifted through the evening air, soft, almost lost in the rustle of leaves. Caleb tilted his head, listening. There it came again, whimpering. You hear that? Lily stood, dirt on her knees. They followed the sound past the garden toward the tree line where an old groundskeeper's shed stood abandoned. The whimpering grew louder, more desperate. Caleb approached the shed carefully, Lily pressed close to his side. Behind a tangle of overgrown honeysuckle, something moved. Golden fur caught the fading light. Caleb pushed aside the vines, revealing a dog huddled against the shed's foundation. The animal lifted its head, brown eyes glazed with exhaustion and fear. Mud caked its coat, but beneath the dirt, a collar glinted, not just any collar, but one studded with what looked like real diamonds. Lily's gasp cut through the silence. "Daddy, it's the dog from the news!" The golden retriever attempted to stand but collapsed, whimpering. Caleb dropped to his knees, speaking in the low, steady tone he'd used with wounded soldiers. "Easy there, boy. You're all right now." The dog's tail gave a weak thump. Caleb ran gentle hands along its body, checking for injuries. No blood, but the animal shook with cold and hunger. How long had it been out here? He spotted a tag hanging from the jeweled collar. Even in the dim light, he could make out the engraved name, Bentley. "Is he hurt?" Lily's voice trembled. "Just scared and tired." Caleb shrugged off his jacket, wrapping it around the dog. "We're taking him home." He lifted Bentley carefully, the dog's weight familiar from years of carrying wounded brothers. The retriever pressed its nose into Caleb's neck, a gesture of trust that tightened something in his chest. Lily walked beside them, one small hand resting on Bentley's muddy fur, whispering reassurances. The walk home stretched longer with his precious cargo, but Caleb's arms never wavered. Lightning flickered in the distance. They'd found him just in time. The next morning arrived with spring sunshine that made yesterday's storm feel like a distant memory. Caleb moved through their morning routine with practiced efficiency, though Bentley's presence added a new element. The golden retriever had spent the night on an old quilt by the radiator, fed with leftover chicken and rice from their dinner. This morning, the dog's tail wagged with renewed energy, following Lily from room to room. "Can't he come to school with me?" Lily pleaded, her arms wrapped around Bentley's neck. "You know he can't, baby girl, but I promise I'll take good care of him." Caleb checked his watch. "Bus'll be here any minute." At the bus stop, Lily turned back 3 times to wave at Bentley, whose nose pressed against their front window. Once the bus disappeared around the corner, Caleb returned to the house, gathering his keys and an old towel for the back seat. "Come on, boy. Let's get you home." The drive to the city took 2 hours through winding country roads that gradually gave way to highways and eventually skyscrapers. Bentley sat alert in the back, occasionally resting his head on Caleb's shoulder. The GPS led them through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until iron gates loomed ahead, flanked by stone pillars bearing the Hale family crest. News vans lined the street. Reporters lounged against their vehicles, coffee cups in hand, until they spotted Caleb's weathered pickup approaching. The effect was instantaneous, cameras raised, bodies surged forward. "Sir, sir, do you have the dog? Is that Bentley? How did you find him?" Caleb rolled down his window just enough to speak to the security guard, who took one look at Bentley and immediately opened the gates. The truck rolled through while reporters shouted questions at the taillights. The driveway curved through manicured gardens for nearly a quarter mile before revealing the estate, a limestone mansion that looked lifted from a European postcard. More staff than Caleb had seen outside a military base lined the front steps. A butler in an actual morning coat descended to open his door. "Mr. Turner, I presume?" "Ms. Hale is waiting in the foyer." Caleb lifted Bentley from the back seat, the dog's whole body wiggling with recognition of home. The moment they crossed the threshold into a foyer larger than Caleb's entire house, a woman's voice cracked with emotion. "Bentley!" Victoria Hale moved like water, elegant even in her desperate rush forward. Her cream silk blouse and tailored pants probably cost more than Caleb made in a month, but she dropped to her knees on the marble floor without hesitation. Bentley launched himself into her arms, crying and licking her face while she buried her fingers in his fur. My baby, my sweet boy. I thought I'd lost you. Tears streamed down her face, ruining what was probably expensive makeup. She looked up at Caleb, mascara smudged, but eyes bright with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you so much. The butler cleared his throat. Miss Hale, the press has been alerted to Mr. Turner's arrival. Victoria stood, Bentley still pressed against her legs. Even disheveled from emotion, she carried herself with inherent grace. Of course, we should make the announcement. She turned to Caleb. The reward, as promised. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Caleb could see reporters crushing against the gates, cameras already rolling. Victoria's assistant appeared with an oversized check, the kind they used for lottery winners on TV. $1 million, made out to Caleb Turner. If you'll just step outside, the assistant murmured. The photographers need. No. The word dropped into the foyer like a stone into still water. Victoria's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. I'm sorry? I can't accept this. Caleb's work-roughened hands stayed at his sides, making no move toward the check. The assistant's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. The butler actually took a step backward. Victoria stared at Caleb as if he'd spoken in tongues. Mr. Turner, perhaps you don't understand. This is $1 million. I understand fine, ma'am. Caleb's voice carried the same quiet conviction that had steadied men under fire. My daughter Lily, she's 10. When she heard about Bentley on the news, she insisted we pray for him, not because of any reward, but because she knew he was a therapy dog who helped children. She said no creature that brings comfort to kids deserved to be lost and afraid. Victoria's hand moved to her throat. Caleb continued, his words measured but firm. We found him scared and shaking behind an old shed. When I carried him home, my little girl sang to him, told him everything would be all right. She gave him her favorite blanket to sleep on. He met Victoria's stunned gaze. We didn't do it for money. We did it because it was right. Gasps rippled through the assembled staff. The assistant's phone buzzed frantically. Reporters watching through the windows had caught every word. Within seconds, the news exploded across social media. Single dad refuses $1 million reward. Victoria hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. She studied Caleb with an intensity that made him want to fidget, but he held steady under her scrutiny. Your daughter sounds remarkable. She is. Like her father, apparently. Caleb shifted, uncomfortable with praise. If you'll excuse me, ma'am, I need to get back. Lily gets home from school at 3:30. He turned toward the door, and the butler scrambled to open it. The roar of questions hit immediately. Mr. Turner, why did you refuse? Are you independently wealthy? What will you tell your daughter? Caleb walked steadily toward his truck, saying nothing. Behind him, Victoria stood in her doorway, Bentley in her arms, watching him navigate the media storm with the same quiet dignity he'd shown in her foyer. The drive home felt longer, his phone buzzing constantly with calls he didn't answer. By the time he reached Maplewood city limits, his story had spread across every major news outlet. The single dad who turned down $1 million. The phone rang for the 7th time since Caleb pulled into his driveway. He let it go to the machine again, some reporter from a cable news network promising an exclusive interview. Through the kitchen window he spotted Mrs. Henderson from next door, hurrying across the lawn, casserole dish in hand. Caleb Turner, you're famous. She thrust the dish at him before he could protest. Channel 5, Channel 8, even that fancy national morning show, they're all running your story. Harold's been glued to the TV all afternoon. It's nothing, really. Nothing? You turned down $1 million on live television. She peered past him into the house. Where's Lily? Daddy. Lily's voice carried from the living room. You're on TV again. Caleb found his daughter cross-legged on their worn couch, still in her school uniform, eyes fixed on the screen. The footage showed him walking away from Victoria Hale's mansion, reporters shouting questions at his back. The news ticker read, Single father refuses $1 million reward, Says daughter's prayers more important than money. That's you, Daddy. That's really you. Lily's voice held wonder, as if her father had suddenly transformed into someone from her storybooks. The commentator's voice filled the room. In an age of greed and self-interest, Caleb Turner has become an overnight sensation. Social media has dubbed him America's most honest dad, with the hashtag already trending nationwide. Caleb reached for the remote, but Lily caught his hand. Wait, they're talking about me. On screen, a panel of talking heads discussed the story. His daughter prayed for the dog, one woman said, dabbing at her eyes. She understood that therapy dog helped other children. What kind of values is this man teaching? The kind we need more of in this country. Lily launched herself at Caleb, arms wrapping around his waist. Did I really help? Did my prayers work? He smoothed her dark hair, the same shade her mother's had been. You did exactly right, sweetheart. The doorbell rang. Another neighbor, this time bringing cookies and questions. Caleb accepted the cookies, deflected the questions, and gently closed the door. The phone rang twice more before he unplugged it entirely. All right, enough excitement. He clapped his hands together, falling into their routine like armor against the chaos. Homework first, then dinner. But Daddy, we're famous. We're the same people we were this morning. Math problems don't solve themselves because someone pointed a camera at us. They sat at the kitchen table, Lily working through long division while Caleb peeled potatoes. Outside, car doors slammed. He glanced through the curtain. A news van had parked 3 houses down, its satellite dish extended like a metallic flower reaching for signals. Dinner was mac and cheese with hot dogs cut up in it, Lily's favorite. She chattered about how her teacher had pulled her aside, saying she was proud of her family's integrity. Caleb nodded, smiled, but kept steering conversation back to normal things. Her science project, due Friday, the church bake sale, her friend Emma's birthday party next week. After dishes, they worked through her reading assignment together, Lily stumbling over words like perseverance and conscience, words that suddenly felt heavier given the day's events. Bath time followed, then prayers, where Lily thanked God for helping them find Bentley and asked him to bless the pretty lady with the sad eyes. She didn't look sad on TV, Lily murmured as Caleb tucked her quilt around her shoulders. Sometimes people are sad in places cameras can't see. Like you were sad after Mommy went to heaven? His throat tightened. Yeah, sweetheart. Like that. Maybe she needs friends. We could be her friends. Maybe. Now get some sleep. He kissed her forehead, turned on her nightlight, a plastic angel that had been her mother's, and pulled the door mostly closed. The house settled into evening quiet, just the hum of the refrigerator and distant sound of television from the Hendersons next door. Caleb stepped onto the front porch, needing air that didn't carry the weight of his daughter's innocent questions. The spring evening had cooled, bringing the scent of Mrs. Patterson's roses from 2 yards over. He'd made it 3 steps before a camera flash went off. Mr. Turner, just one question. A reporter stood at the edge of his property, photographer beside her. Down the street, he counted 2 more news vans now, their occupants watching his house like patient hunters. Please leave us alone. He kept his voice level, civil. My daughter needs normalcy. The public wants to know more about the man who... The public knows enough. He turned back toward his door. Good night. Inside, he locked the deadbolt, something he rarely did in Maplewood, and leaned against the door. Through everything today, he'd maintained his composure. But now, in the dark of his own home, the weight of it pressed down. They'd turned him into a symbol, a story, a hashtag. All he'd done was return a dog and tell the truth about why. Miles away, in a penthouse that cost more than Caleb would earn in 10 lifetimes, Victoria Hale sat in silk pajamas, laptop open, watching the footage for the dozenth time. She paused at the moment Caleb had said those words, "We did it because it was right." The sincerity in his voice, the way he'd stood there in his faded flannel and work boots, surrounded by marble and millions, unmoved by any of it. She'd met senators who bent their principles for far less, CEOs who'd sell their grandmothers for a stock bump, yet this man, this widowed father, had looked at $1 million and simply said no. Her phone buzzed, another board member texting about leveraging the positive PR. She ignored it, returning to the footage. The camera had caught Lily Turner's school photo during one segment. The girl had her father's honest eyes, that same quality of seeing through to what mattered. Victoria touched the screen where Caleb's face was frozen mid-word. For the first time since inheriting her fortune, she'd met someone who wanted nothing from her. The feeling was as foreign as it was intriguing. The morning air carried gossip faster than spring pollen. Caleb kept his hand on Lily's shoulder as they walked to school, feeling the weight of every glance. Parents who usually offered quick nods now stopped to shake his hand. "What you did was remarkable, Mrs. Chen said, squeezing his arm, "teaching our children real values." "Just returned a lost dog," Caleb replied, guiding Lily forward. At the school gates, Principal Roberts waited. "Mr. Turner, we're proud to have your family in our community." Lily beamed up at her father, but Caleb just nodded, kissed his daughter's head, and watched her skip inside. The whispers followed him back down Maple Street, admiration that felt as foreign as the reporter's attention. The VA Center sat on Oak Avenue, a converted grocery store with peeling paint and a hand-painted sign. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed over linoleum floors that had seen better decades. Caleb found his usual spot in the repair corner, where 3 wheelchairs waited for attention. "Look who's too famous for us now," Jorge called out, rolling over in his own chair. Lost both legs in Kandahar, never lost his grin. "Famous for fixing your squeaky wheel?" Caleb knelt beside the first wheelchair, toolbox open. "This bearing's shot. Saw you on the news." $1 million, Jorge whistled low. "Could have bought a lot of wheelchairs with that. Could have." Caleb worked the wrench, focused on the task. "But then, what would I do with my Thursdays?" More veterans gathered as morning stretched toward noon. Caleb fixed what needed fixing, a stuck brake here, loose armrest there. Simple problems with simple solutions, unlike everything else in their lives. When the repairs were done, he pulled out his guitar. The Martin Acoustic Sarah had given him their last Christmas together. The strings were worn but true. He started with Country Roads, moved through some Cash, finished with Amazing Grace. The men and women listened, some humming along, others just closing their eyes and drifting somewhere peaceful. Across the street, Victoria sat in a rented Toyota, watching through the center's large windows. She'd driven 2 hours in economy-class comfort, told her driver to take the day off, and dressed in jeans and a simple blouse bought from Target yesterday. The disguise felt strange but necessary. She watched Caleb work, the careful way he tested each repair, the patience when old Pete rambled about Vietnam for the 3rd time. When he played guitar, his whole posture changed, shoulders relaxed, face softened. This was the man who'd refused her $1 million. Victoria entered the center quietly, clipboard in hand, playing the part of a foundation representative. The smell hit first: coffee, disinfectant, and something indefinable that spoke of hard times and harder people. "Help you?" A woman at the desk looked up. "I'm with the Midwest Veterans Foundation." The lie came smooth. Understanding the needs of local centers. About time someone did. Victoria moved through the space, taking pretend notes while stealing glances at Caleb. He was showing a younger veteran how to maintain his prosthetic, hands steady and sure. No cameras here, no spotlight, just service. The bell above the door chimed. Lily burst in, backpack bouncing, still in her school uniform of khaki jumper and white polo. "Daddy, I got an A on my spelling test." "That's my girl." Caleb hugged her tight, then noticed Victoria. Recognition flickered in his eyes, confusion, maybe concern. But Lily had already spotted the stranger. The child approached with that fearless curiosity only 10-year-olds possess. From her backpack she produced a paper heart, crayon red with glitter glue edges. "We made these in Sunday school, for people who need love. Victoria's throat closed. She knelt to Lily's level, accepting the gift with both hands like it was made of spun glass. "You're pretty like an angel," Lily whispered, then louder, "Are you here to help the veterans?" Yes, I'm trying to." "Good. Daddy says they gave everything for us. We should give something back." The paper heart trembled in Victoria's hands. This child, in her second-hand uniform and scuffed shoes, offering love made of construction paper and innocence. She'd been given diamonds that moved her less. "Thank you," Victoria managed. "It's beautiful." "Lily, let the lady work," Caleb called, but his eyes stayed on Victoria, questioning. "She's not working. She's crying." Lily peered closer. "Are you sad?" "No, sweetheart. Sometimes people cry when something touches them. Like when Daddy plays Amazing Grace and Mr. Jorge gets wet eyes." "Exactly like that." Caleb appeared beside them, hand gentle on Lily's shoulder. "We should go. Let the lady finish her work." Victoria stood, clutching the paper heart. Their eyes met his guarded, hers exposed in a way her boardroom never saw. "Thank you for what you do here," she said. "Just Thursday volunteering. Still, it matters." He nodded, guided Lily toward the door. Victoria watched them leave, father and daughter hand in hand, disappearing into the afternoon sun. That evening, Caleb stood at his kitchen window washing dishes while Lily practiced multiplication tables. A black town car pulled away from the curb where it had been parked for an hour. He'd noticed it earlier, recognized the rental plates, the tinted windows that screamed money, trying not to scream money. He dried his hands, helped Lily with her sevens, and said nothing about the billionaire who'd driven 2 hours to watch him fix wheelchairs. The envelope lay on the worn doormat like a white flag of surrender. Caleb found it at dawn, slipped beneath the door while they slept. No postmark, no return address. Just his name in elegant cursive that made his stomach drop. Inside, typed on thick paper that felt expensive between his calloused fingers, "Mr. Turner, your dedication to your daughter and community has come to our foundation's attention. We wish to settle all outstanding medical debts from your late wife's treatment and resolve the mortgage situation currently threatening your home. No strings, no publicity, simply one American helping another. Please contact the number below to arrange details." Caleb set down his coffee mug. His hand shook slightly. The medical bills sat in a box under his bed, 47, zero that grew every month despite his payments. The foreclosure notice had arrived last week. 30 days to catch up or lose the house Sarah had loved, but that handwriting, he'd seen it yesterday on the clipboard. Victoria carried the same precise loops and careful slant. She'd found out somehow. Of course she had. Billionaires had ways. "Daddy, you okay?" Lily stood in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Fine, sweetheart. Just morning mail." "Good news?" He folded the letter, tucked it in his pocket. "Grown-up stuff, nothing to worry about." That evening he drove to the VA center for emergency repairs on Jorge's wheelchair. The parking lot sat empty except for Jorge's van and a familiar Toyota. Victoria stood by the entrance, no clipboard this time, no pretense. She wore the same simple clothes, but carried herself differently, uncertain, like she'd forgotten her lines. "Jorge's inside," Caleb said, pulling his toolbox from the truck. "I'm not here for Jorge." "I know." They stood in the amber light of sunset, the space between them charged with unspoken things. "You got my letter." Not a question. Elegant handwriting for a foundation. Her smile was rueful. "I wanted to help." "Why?" "Because you're drowning and too proud to take a life preserver." Caleb set down the toolbox harder than necessary. "My daughter needs to see her daddy stand tall, not leaning on someone else's checkbook. Standing tall doesn't mean standing alone. For us it does. That's pride talking. That's survival talking." His voice carried an edge now. "You wouldn't understand. When you've got nothing but your dignity, you guard it fierce. Lily's watching everything I do, learning what it means to make your own way. I won't teach her to wait for rescue." Victoria's lips trembled. Frustration or something deeper, he couldn't tell. "So you'll lose your home instead? That's the lesson?" "The lesson is, you don't quit. You don't take shortcuts. You earn what's yours. Even if earning isn't enough anymore." The question hung between them like a blade, because she was right, and they both knew it. His 2 jobs barely covered groceries and utilities. The medical bills were mountains he'd never climb. A small voice broke the standoff. "Miss Angel!" Lily ran across the parking lot, backpack thumping against her shoulders. She'd walked from after-school care like always, 3 blocks in the fading light. Victoria's entire posture changed. The frustration melted as Lily wrapped thin arms around her waist. "You came back." Yes. I was just talking to your father." "About veteran stuff?" "Something like that." Lily looked between them, 10-year-old intuition working overtime. Daddy's making his stern face. "Did you argue?" "No, sweetheart," Caleb said. "Adult conversation. That's what Mom used to say when you argued." Lily's matter-of-fact tone cut deep. She turned to Victoria. "Are you staying for supper? We're having stew and cornbread." "Lily, please?" The child's eyes were huge. "Daddy made enough for leftovers, but fresh is better." Victoria looked at Caleb. He saw the question there, the hope she tried to hide. "She's right about the cornbread," he said quietly. "Better fresh." The walk home took 10 minutes. Lily filled the silence, chattering about school, her spelling test, the boy who put gum in Jessica's hair. Victoria listened like every word mattered, asking questions that made Lily beam. Their kitchen was small. Victoria looked too large for it somehow, not physically but in presence, like she might bump into their simple life and break something. "Sit," Caleb said, nodding to the table. "Lily, wash up." He ladled beef stew into 3 bowls, nothing fancy meat bought on sale, vegetables from the discount bin, but seasoned with care. The cornbread came out golden, butter melting on top. Victoria took a bite, closed her eyes. "This is wonderful. Daddy's secret ingredient is love," Lily announced. "He told me that's why restaurant food tastes empty." Empty? Like they forgot the important part. They ate while Lily performed a one-girl show about her day. Victoria laughed, really laughed at the impression of her teacher, Mr. Barnes, who apparently walked like a penguin. Caleb watched her transform, the careful billionaire shell cracking to reveal something genuine underneath. "Tell her the joke about the bicycle," Lily commanded. "You tell it better." "Why couldn't the bicycle stand up?" Lily paused dramatically. "Because it was too tired." Victoria's laugh filled their small kitchen, rich and unguarded. For a moment, just one, they felt like something Caleb couldn't name, something that scared him more than foreclosure notices. The leather seats of Victoria's Mercedes felt cold as she drove through Maplewood's quiet streets. The taste of cornbread lingered, but it was Lily's laughter that echoed loudest. 3 blocks from Caleb's house, she pulled over and gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. What was she doing? Her phone buzzed with messages from her assistant. "Board meeting tomorrow. Acquisition papers to review. The Hong Kong merger waiting for approval." That was her world: numbers and contracts, power moves across marble boardrooms, not beef stew in cramped kitchens, not little girls with paper hearts, not men who looked at $1,000,000 checks like insults. She drove home to her estate, 40 minutes of manicured emptiness. The house sprawled across 5 acres, every room perfect and lifeless. In her study she tried to work, but the spreadsheets blurred. All she could see was Caleb's careful hands buttering cornbread, the way he'd softened when Lily laughed, the fierce love in his eyes when he'd spoken about standing tall. They had 3 mismatched chairs and radiated more warmth than her entire mansion. Caleb lay on his back, studying the water stain on his bedroom ceiling. Down the hall, Lily slept peacefully, worn out from recounting every moment of Victoria's visit to her stuffed animals. "She's pretty like a princess," Mr. Buttons, And she laughed at all my jokes. The words drifted through thin walls, each one a small weight on his chest. His daughter hadn't laughed like that since Sarah died. 18 months of careful smiles, of trying so hard to be okay for Daddy. Then Victoria walked in, and suddenly Lily was herself again, bright and silly and free. But at what cost? The foreclosure notice sat in his dresser drawer like a ticking bomb, 3 months behind. Final warning. His pride had backed them into a corner with no good exits, except one that terrified him more than losing the house. Victoria wasn't offering charity anymore. She was offering presents, and that was infinitely more dangerous. Charity you could refuse. Presents got under your skin, into your routines, into your daughter's heart where another loss might break her completely. Days blurred into a rhythm Caleb didn't plan but couldn't stop. Tuesday, Victoria arrived at the VA center with new guitar strings and sheet music. Donation, she said, but stayed to hear him play Amazing Grace for the veterans. Wednesday, she appeared at Lily's school art fair, admiring the crayon drawing of My Family that now inexplicably included a blonde figure labeled Miss Angel. Thursday, she brought coffee to the construction site where Caleb picked up day labor, claiming she was meeting contractors nearby. His coworkers whistled low when she left. "That's the billionaire lady," Marcus said, "the one from the news." "She lost?" Tommy asked. "Something like that," Caleb muttered. By Friday, the whispers followed him through town. At the grocery store, Mrs. Henderson cornered him by the produce. "That Hale woman's been asking about you at the church. She's interested in our veteran programs." "Honey, she's interested in more than programs." The knowing look made his neck burn. Small towns had their own currency, and gossip spent faster than $100 bills. Saturday brought the community cleanup at Riverside Park. Caleb arrived to find Victoria already there, expensive jeans rolled up, helping Lily paint park benches bright yellow. "She's teaching me about color theory," Lily announced. "See? Yellow makes people happy." Victoria had paint on her cheek. When she smiled at him, something in his chest twisted hard. They worked side by side all morning. She matched his pace with the heavy lifting, never complaining when mulch stained her designer shoes. During lunch break, she sat on the grass eating hot dogs from the Legion booth, listening to old Pete's war stories like they were Shakespeare. The sun started setting as they cleaned up. Lily had run off with friends to play on the newly painted swings. Caleb found Victoria loading trash bags into the dumpster, doing the work everyone else avoided. "You don't have to prove anything." She paused, wiping sweat from her forehead. "I'm not proving, I'm participating." "In what?" "Life. Real life. The kind where people show up for each other." They stood in the dying light, the space between them shrinking without either moving. "Why?" The question came out rougher than intended. "Why do you keep coming back?" The truth this time. Victoria's composure cracked. Her voice shook. "Because I don't want to just help you, Caleb. I want to belong with you and Lily." The words hung in the amber air. Caleb stared at her, this woman worth billions who wanted to belong to their tiny, broken family. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." Tears made her eyes bright. "I've spent 10 years in rooms full of people who only see my net worth. Then I met you and Lily, and for the first time, someone saw me. Just me. Victoria, I know we're from different worlds. I know it's complicated, but when I'm with you both, I'm not the Hale heiress. I'm just happy." Caleb couldn't breathe, because he'd felt it too, that dangerous happiness creeping in when she laughed at Lily's jokes, when she helped without fanfare, when she looked at him like he was something more than a struggling single father. "Daddy, Miss Angel? Watch me on the monkey bars." Lily's voice shattered the moment. They turned to watch her swing across, arms strong and sure. When she reached the end, she threw both fists in the air, victorious. They stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the child who'd brought them together, and Caleb realized his simple refusal of money had birthed something far more complex. something that might heal them all, or leave them more broken than before. The morning after Victoria's confession hung over Caleb like smoke from a fire he couldn't locate. At the VA center, he botched 3 wheelchair repairs before noon. "Turner, you strip another screw and I'm revoking your tool privileges," Hank called out from across the workshop. "Sorry." Caleb set down the screwdriver, his hands unsteady. Marcus wheeled over, studying him. "That billionaire lady got you twisted up? Drop it." "Can't drop what's obvious. You've checked that door 17 times like she might walk through it. She didn't." But her words echoed anyway. "I want to belong with you and Lily." During guitar hour, his fingers fumbled through Country Roads, a song he could play blindfolded. The veterans exchanged glances, but said nothing. Even old Pete, who complained about everything, kept his commentary to himself. Caleb left early, picking up Lily from after-school care. She chattered about her science project, the whole drive home something about butterflies and transformation. He half listened, his mind elsewhere. "Is Miss Angel coming for dinner?" "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so. She makes you smile different." Before he could ask what that meant, a familiar car sat parked outside their house. Victoria stood on the porch, holding a covered dish and looking remarkably uncertain. "I made pie." She lifted the dish like an offering. "Apple. From scratch." Lily bounded up the steps, peering under the foil. "It smells amazing." Caleb climbed slower, noting the flour dusting Victoria's expensive blazer, the bandage on her thumb. "You burned yourself 3 times. Turns out ovens are vindictive." Inside, she unveiled her creation with the solemnity of someone presenting evidence in court. The pie's edges were decidedly charred, the center sunken, the crust pattern more abstract art than intentional design. Lily giggled, pressing both hands over her mouth. "It looks like it fought back." "It did." Victoria's laugh came easy, self-deprecating. The recipe said, "Simple as pie." The recipe lied. "We'll fix it," Lily declared, already pulling whipped cream from the refrigerator. "Daddy says whipped cream makes everything better." They gathered around the small kitchen table, the same one where Victoria had first shared their stew weeks ago. Lily distributed generous slices, then applied whipped cream with the enthusiasm of Jackson Pollock. The first bite was interesting. Tart apples fought with burnt sugar, undercooked dough, battled crispy edges. They chewed in synchronized silence. "It's terrible," Victoria said. "It's perfect," Lily countered, taking another enormous bite. "You made it for us. That makes it perfect." Something passed across Victoria's face, vulnerability mixed with wonder. Caleb found himself reaching for a second piece. "Best worst pie I've ever had. That might be the nicest thing anyone said to me all year." They talked while they ate. Lily describing her butterfly project with theatrical hand gestures, Victoria asked genuine questions, remembering details from previous conversations. She knew Lily's teacher's name, her best friend's birthday, her favorite subject. "Did you know," Lily said, whipped cream on her nose, "that butterflies taste with their feet?" "That explains why they're always landing on flowers," Victoria replied. "They're having tiny tea parties." Lily dissolved into giggles. Caleb watched them, this unlikely pair, and felt that dangerous warmth spreading through his chest again. His daughter hadn't laughed like this since he stopped the thought, but not fast enough. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Victoria her butterfly drawings. They sprawled on the living room floor, colored pencils scattered like pickup sticks. Victoria drew alongside her, their heads bent together over the paper. "You're really good," Lily said, admiring Victoria's sketch. "I took art classes a lifetime ago." "Why'd you stop?" "I forgot it made me happy." By 8:30, Lily was fighting sleep on the couch, her head drooping against Victoria's shoulder. Caleb carried her to bed, tucking her in with practiced efficiency. When he returned, Victoria was washing dishes, her diamond bracelet sitting on the counter like it belonged there. "You don't have to." "I want to." She handed him a plate to dry. "This is what people do, right?" Share meals, clean up together, argue about terrible pie. Your pie wasn't terrible. You're a terrible liar. She smiled, soft in the warm kitchen light. Thank you for that. They worked in comfortable rhythm, the kind usually built over years, not weeks. When the last dish was dried, Victoria turned, leaning against the counter. She's shining brighter. Lily. These past weeks, she's like a little sun. Caleb's throat tightened. She laughs more, sings in the shower again. Just her? The question hung delicate between them. Caleb set down the dish towel, choosing words carefully. You make us both remember what happy feels like. Victoria's eyes glistened. I haven't felt this kind of belonging in years, maybe ever. Board meetings, charity galas, investment dinners, none of it feels real. But this? She gestured to the modest kitchen, the crayon drawings on the refrigerator, the burned pie pan. This feels like home. Their eyes met, held. The space between them hummed with possibility. Caleb cleared his throat, stepping back. It's late. Right, of course. She collected her bracelet, her movements suddenly formal. Thank you for dinner. For letting me. Saturday. Lily has a soccer game. 9 o'clock. Hope bloomed across her face. I'll bring orange slices. Store-bought. Please. Her laugh followed her to the door. She paused on the porch, looking back at the small house with its peeling paint and crooked shutters. Caleb saw it in her eyes, not pity or charity, but longing, raw and honest as her terrible pie. After she left, he stood in his daughter's doorway, watching Lily sleep with a smile still curving her lips. The week unfolded like a map to somewhere new. Victoria's sleek Mercedes became a fixture outside Miller's soup kitchen, where she ladled vegetable stew beside Caleb every Tuesday and Thursday. Her designer clothes gave way to jeans and simple blouses, though she still moved with that particular grace money couldn't buy. Never thought I'd see the day, Martha Henderson muttered to her husband at the grocery store, watching Victoria compare tomato prices. Billionaire buying store brand? Maybe she's studying us, Frank replied. Like those nature documentaries. But at the library, where Victoria donated 3 boxes of children's books, librarian Sarah Chen saw differently. She watched the woman sit cross-legged during story time, making dragon sounds that sent the children into fits of giggles. She's trying, Sarah told her book club that evening. Really trying. Trying to get her hands on Caleb Turner, Doris shot back. Mark my words, this ends badly. Wednesday's school art fair drew half the town. Lily's butterfly painting monarch wings spread against a sunset hung in the place of honor. Victoria arrived early, helping arrange cookies on paper plates while other parents stared. Is that really her? Someone whispered. The Hail Fortune heiress, serving snickerdoodles? Lily dragged Victoria from display to display, introducing her to classmates with proprietorial pride. This is Miss Victoria. She's teaching me to draw clouds. Mrs. Patterson, Lily's teacher, pulled Caleb aside. She's been different lately. Brighter. Whatever you're doing. It's not just me, Caleb admitted, watching Victoria kneel to examine a kindergartner's finger painting with genuine interest. Saturday arrived crisp and bright, perfect kite weather. They met at Riverside Park, Victoria carrying a dragon kite she'd found at the local 5 and Dime. Dragons fly higher than butterflies, she told Lily, who clutched her own butterfly kite. We'll see about that. Caleb's simple diamond kite looked plain beside theirs, but he didn't mind. They spread across the hillside, strings unwinding toward clouds. Lily's butterfly caught wind first, spiraling upward with determination. Victoria's dragon fought and twisted, diving twice before finding its rhythm. You're doing it wrong, Lily called out, running to help. You have to feel where the wind wants it to go. They stood together, Victoria's hands over Lily's on the string, learning the language of wind and tension. Caleb watched them, this woman who commanded boardrooms learning from his 10-year-old daughter, and felt his careful walls crack. His diamond kite climbed steady, reliable, Like him, he supposed. No surprises, no grand gestures, just consistent forward motion. Then a crosswind caught it, sending it into a wild spiral that tangled with Victoria's dragon. "Oh no!" Lily squealed. But Victoria laughed, not her polite charity dinner laugh, but something rich and unguarded. "Your dad's kite is attacking my dragon. Dragons deserve it," Caleb called back, working to untangle the strings. "Always hoarding gold and terrorizing villages. That's stereotyping," Victoria protested, pulling her line. "Some dragons are simply misunderstood." "Like billionaires?" The words slipped out before he could stop them. Victoria's eyes met his over the tangle of string, sparkling with mischief. "Exactly like billionaires. They worked together, fingers brushing as they sorted red string from white." Lily's butterfly soared above them, freed from the drama below. "Mine's winning," she announced. When they finally freed the kites, Caleb's diamond had a tear in one corner. Victoria's dragon had lost several scales. They looked battle-worn, veterans of an aerial skirmish. "War wounds," Victoria said solemnly. "Character marks," Caleb corrected. They flew until the wind died, then bought ice cream from a truck playing tinny music. Lily got strawberry on her chin, Victoria dripped chocolate on her shoe, and Caleb found himself laughing. Not chuckling, not smiling, but truly laughing for the first time in 3 years. The sound surprised him. His hand went to his chest, as if checking whether his heart remembered how. Victoria noticed. Her hand briefly touched his arm, the gesture saying everything words couldn't. That evening, after Victoria left with promises to come to Sunday dinner, Caleb carried a drowsy Lily to bed. She smelled like sunshine and strawberry ice cream. "Today was perfect," she murmured against his shoulder. "Yeah, baby, it was." He tucked her in, smoothing the butterfly quilt Victoria had admired at the art fair. Lily's eyes fluttered open, suddenly serious. "Daddy?" "What is it, sweetheart? I think Miss Victoria might be the mommy I prayed for." The words hit him like cold water. His chest tightened, torn between the hope blooming dangerous in his chest and the fear that had kept them safe these 3 years since Amanda died. "Lily. She makes you laugh again. Real laughs, not the pretend ones." Her small hand found his. "Mommy would want you to laugh real laughs." Caleb's throat closed. He kissed her forehead, unable to trust his voice. "Sweet dreams, baby." But long after Lily slept, he stood at her doorway, watching her peaceful face. Outside, the night was full of cricket songs and distant trains. Inside, his heart waged war between what was safe and what was possible. His phone buzzed. "Victoria, thank you for today. For letting me be part of your world." He typed several responses, deleted them all, finally sending, "Our world. You're part of our world now." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "That's everything I never knew I wanted." Caleb set down the phone and walked to the window. Somewhere across town, in a rented cottage she'd taken instead of driving back to the city, Victoria was looking at the same stars. Victoria changed her outfit 3 times that Sunday morning. The designer dress felt wrong. The casual jeans seemed disrespectful. She finally settled on a simple blue dress from the local boutique, one she'd bought on impulse the week before. Her hands trembled as she parked outside First Baptist Church of Maplewood. The white steeple reached toward morning clouds, bells calling the faithful. "Miss Victoria." Lily bounded down the church steps, Sunday dress swirling. "You came!" "I promised, didn't I?" Caleb followed, clean-shaven, wearing his one good suit. The morning light caught the threads of silver in his hair. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Small towns and small churches can be, I'm sure." They climbed the worn steps together. Inside, heads turned. Whispers rippled through pews like wind through wheat. Victoria recognized the looks, curiosity, suspicion, the careful distance people kept from wealth. "Don't mind them," Caleb murmured. "They'll warm up." Pastor Green met them at the door, his weathered face breaking into a genuine smile. His handshake was firm, calloused from years of working his small farm between sermons. "Victoria, we're blessed to have you join us. The Turner pew is third row, left side. Been theirs for 3 generations." The old wood creaked as they settled in. Lily positioned herself between them, swinging her legs that didn't quite reach the floor. She handed Victoria a hymnal, its pages soft from decades of faithful hands. When the congregation rose to sing, Victoria fumbled with unfamiliar melodies. Lily's clear voice guided her, while Caleb's deeper tone anchored them both. Amazing Grace, she knew this one. Her voice joined theirs, tentative at first, then stronger. Pastor Green took the pulpit with the easy confidence of a man who'd stood there 40 years. "This morning I want to talk about riches," he began. Several eyes flicked toward Victoria. "Not the kind you put in banks, the kind you store in hearts." He opened his worn Bible. "Matthew tells us where our treasure is, there our hearts will be also. But what is treasure? Is it what we count, or what counts to us?" Victoria's throat tightened. "I knew a man once," Pastor Green continued, "wealthy beyond measure, owned 3 companies, 2 houses, 1 lonely heart. He told me he'd trade it all for 1 more day with his daughter, who'd stopped speaking to him years back. All that money, and he couldn't buy forgiveness." The pastor's eyes found Victoria's, kind but direct. "Then there's folks like Caleb Turner here, man who turns down $1 million because his daughter's prayers matter more than mortgage payments. That's a different kind of wealth, the kind that compounds interest in heaven." Victoria felt tears building. Lily's small hand slipped into hers. "Compassion," Pastor Green said, voice rising, "is the currency of the kingdom. Love is the investment that never fails. And grace is the fortune freely given to all who ask." The sermon continued, each word finding cracks in Victoria's carefully constructed armor. She'd sat through countless board meetings, merger negotiations, hostile takeovers, but this simple man, in this simple church, was restructuring her entire understanding of value. When they stood for the final hymn, tears ran freely down her cheeks. Lily pressed close, not commenting, just present. Caleb offered his handkerchief without looking, the gesture so natural it broke her heart all over again. After service, the fellowship hall smelled like strong coffee and grocery store pastries. Victoria expected coldness, judgment. Instead, she found careful curiosity. "You're the one helped fund the new roof at the VA center," said Mrs. Henderson, clutching her walker. "My grandson got those prosthetics through your foundation," added Tom Bradley, shaking her hand with genuine warmth. Lily tugged her around the room, proud as a peacock. "This is our friend, Miss Victoria. She makes the best burnt apple pie. She's teaching me about dragons. Our friend." The word glowed in Victoria's chest. They stayed until the last coffee pot ran dry, until Lily had eaten 3 donuts and showed Victoria every crayon drawing on the Sunday school wall. The afternoon sun slanted gold through the windows when they finally left. That evening, crickets sang their vespers as Victoria and Caleb sat on his porch. Lily chased fireflies across the yard, her laughter punctuating the quiet. Mason jar in hand, she stalked the blinking lights with serious concentration. "I got one! I got one!" She ran to show them her captured star. "Make a wish and let it go," Caleb told her. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, whispered something secret, then opened the jar. The firefly circled once, twice, then disappeared into the gathering dusk. "What'd you wish for?" Victoria asked. "Can't tell, or it won't come true." Lily grinned and raced after another light. They sat in comfortable silence, watching her dance through the yard. The porch swing creaked its ancient rhythm. "Can I ask you something?" Caleb's voice was soft. "Anything. Why are you really here, Victoria? You could be anywhere. Yacht in the Mediterranean, penthouse in Paris. But you're sitting on a broken porch swing in Maplewood, Virginia." She watched Lily leap for a firefly, missing by inches, laughing anyway. Because this is where I've found something money couldn't buy. Which is? Victoria turned to face him. In the porch light, his eyes held depths she was only beginning to understand. Peace. Purpose. She paused. People who see me, not my portfolio. Caleb's hand moved across the space between them, not quite touching hers, but close enough she felt the warmth. That sermon today made me cry like a baby, made you real. His voice was rough, more real than you've ever been. The walls he'd built after Amanda died, brick by brick, prayer by prayer. Victoria felt them shifting, loosening, not falling, not yet, but no longer impenetrable. Daddy, Miss Victoria, come help, there's hundreds. They rose together, joining Lily in her chase. 3 figures in the gathering dark, catching stars in their hands, letting them go, catching them again. Each release an act of faith. Each capture a small miracle. The night embraced them, simple and profound. The morning broke hot and bright, with bunting already strung between lampposts and American flags snapping in the breeze. Main Street transformed overnight food stalls sprouting like mushrooms, the gazebo dressed in red, white, and blue ribbons. Caleb straightened Lily's star-spangled hair bow while she bounced on her toes. Miss Victoria said she'd meet us by the lemonade stand. Easy there, jumping bean. But he smiled, checking his reflection in the hall mirror. Just a clean shirt and jeans, nothing fancy. Still, he'd shaved twice. The town square pulsed with life. The high school band tuned their instruments in cheerful chaos. Veterans gathered near the memorial, some in wheelchairs Caleb had repaired, wearing caps that announced their wars. The smell of grilled corn and funnel cakes filled the air. Victoria stood by the lemonade stand as promised, wearing a simple sundress instead of her usual designer clothes. She'd pulled her hair into a ponytail. Somehow, the casual look made her more beautiful. You came. Lily launched herself at Victoria's legs. Wouldn't miss it for the world. They moved through the crowd, as a unit, Caleb and Victoria side by side, Lily weaving between them like a happy satellite. People noticed but pretended not to, granting them the gift of normalcy. At the ring toss, Victoria failed spectacularly 5 times before Caleb steadied her throwing arm, guiding the motion. The ring landed perfectly. We have a winner. The booth operator handed over a stuffed eagle. For you, champion. Victoria presented it to Lily, with mock ceremony. The parade started at noon. The veterans marched first, Caleb saluting as they passed. The fire trucks came next, sirens wailing, then the Maple Grove majorettes, then floats made by local businesses. Lily perched on Caleb's shoulders for a better view, one hand clutching her new eagle, the other sticky with cotton candy. Look, Daddy, Mrs. Henderson's on the library float. The elderly woman waved from her wheelchair throne made of papier-mâché books. The crowd cheered. Victoria watched Caleb's face as he watched his daughter, the pure love there, uncomplicated by anything else. She'd seen million-dollar art collections that moved her less. Cotton candy? Lily offered her the pink cloud. Victoria took a bite, sugar dissolving on her tongue. Perfect. They wandered through the afternoon, listening to the bluegrass band, watching the pie-eating contest, letting Lily try the duck pond game until she won a goldfish. What'll you name him? Victoria asked. Bentley, too. At the crafts tent, they painted small wooden flags. Lily concentrated fiercely, tongue poking out. Victoria attempted stars that looked more like asterisks. Caleb painted with steady, careful strokes. You're good at that, Victoria observed. Learned in occupational therapy, at the VA hospital. Helps with the shakes. She wanted to ask more, but Lily interrupted, needing help with her stripes. As afternoon melted toward evening, Victoria checked her phone. Everything's ready at the house. The whole town's invited. Caleb hesitated. Your estate? That's where I want to share this with everyone. With you. The drive to Victoria's estate took them out of town, through acres of Virginia countryside. The gates stood open, no security in sight. The circular drive, already packed with pickup trucks and minivans, half of Maplewood, had accepted the invitation. The lawn sprawled like a green ocean, dotted with picnic blankets and folding chairs. Tables groaned under potluck dishes. Mrs. Chen's dumplings next to Bobby Watson's barbecue, Victoria's catered spreads mixing with homemade coleslaw. "It's like the whole town moved here," Lily breathed. Kids ran everywhere, playing tag between the hedges. Veterans clustered near the gazebo, sharing stories. Pastor Green blessed the food while everyone bowed their heads. As darkness crept in, people settled onto blankets. Caleb found a spot on the gentle slope, perfect for viewing. Lily bounced between them, too excited to sit still. 5 minutes till showtime," Victoria announced. The first rocket whistled skyward, exploding in golden rain. Then another, and another, until the sky became a canvas of light. Professional-grade fireworks, the kind the town could never afford, painting masterpieces overhead. "Daddy, lift me up. I want to touch them." Caleb hoisted Lily onto his shoulders. She stretched her arms toward the stars, squealing with each boom and burst. Her joy was infectious. People laughed just watching her. Victoria stood close enough that their arms touched. Another rocket exploded, illuminating her face in green and gold. Without thinking, without planning, Caleb's hand found hers. She didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined as naturally as breathing. Above them, Lily shouted her amazement. Around them, the town celebrated. But in that moment, the world narrowed to two hands holding in the dark, finding courage in the touch. The finale built to crescendo, dozens of rockets at once, turning night to day. Lily shrieked with delight. The crowd erupted in applause. As the smoke cleared and stars reclaimed the sky, Lily slumped on Caleb's shoulders, exhausted. He lifted her down, cradling her against his chest. She was asleep before her head touched his shoulder. "Let me help," Victoria whispered, adjusting Lily's position so her weight distributed better. They stood there, the three of them connected in the settling quiet. People began gathering their things, calling out thanks, heading home. Victoria looked at the sleeping child, at the man holding her, at the dispersing crowd of people she'd never imagined in her world. "This feels like home," she whispered. Caleb's free arm drew her closer. "Yeah, it does." The night held them gently, promising nothing, offering everything. The Tuesday after the 4th started like any other. Caleb dropped Lily at summer day camp, stopped by Miller's Hardware for wood stain, then headed to the VA center. Tom wheeled past him in the corridor, newspaper tucked under his arm. "Morning, Caleb. Hell of a fireworks show the other night. Victoria's doing. She wanted everyone there." Tom's smile faltered. "Yeah, about that." He unfolded the paper. The headline punched Caleb in the gut. "Single Dad's $1 Million Game. How a Humble Veteran Trapped America's Richest Heiress." The coffee mug slipped from Caleb's hand, shattering on the linoleum. The article was poison dressed as journalism. Every detail of his life laid bare, the foreclosure notice from First National down to the exact amount. 3 years of hospital bills, itemized. His disability payments, his part-time work, even Lily's reduced lunch status at school. Photos too, his weathered truck, the peeling paint on his porch, a shot of him at the soup kitchen that somehow made charity look calculated. Anonymous sources say Turner refused the reward, knowing it would generate sympathy. The article read, "A classic long con, targeting a grieving heiress known for her charitable nature." "It's garbage," Tom said. "Everyone knows you're not, but..." Caleb was already walking away, the newspaper crumpled in his fist. By noon, reporters clustered outside the VA center. Caleb slipped out the back, but they found him at the grocery store, at the gas station, outside Lily's day camp. "Mr. Turner, any comment on the allegations? Is it true you're in foreclosure? How much does Ms. Hale give you?" He said nothing, jaw clenched, shepherding Lily to the truck while she clung to his hand, confused and frightened. That evening, neighbors stopped by. Mrs. Chen brought casserole, the Washingtons offered support, Pastor Green prayed with them. But Caleb caught the looks, not judgment exactly, but curiosity. Questions they were too polite to ask. "Daddy, why are those people being mean?" Lily asked at bedtime. "Sometimes people say things that aren't true, sweetheart. But you and Miss Victoria are friends. That's good, right?" He kissed her forehead. "Get some sleep." But sleep wouldn't come for him. His phone buzzed with messages from Victoria, but shame kept him from answering. How could he face her now, with his poverty splashed across newsstands, with strangers thinking he'd orchestrated some elaborate scheme? 500 miles away, Victoria stood before 12 board members in her Manhattan conference room. The same tabloid lay centered on the mahogany table, like evidence at a trial. "This is unacceptable," Richard Blackstone said, his voice sharp as his tailored suit. "Our stock has dropped 3 points since this story broke." "It's a tabloid hit piece," Victoria countered. "Caleb Turner is a liability," Margaret Wu interrupted. "Victoria, we've tolerated your eccentricities, but this? Cavorting with someone who clearly targeted you?" He refused $1 million. A calculated move to seem noble. Blackstone pulled out his tablet. "I've had our investigators look into Mr. Turner. Did you know he's 3 months behind on his mortgage? That his truck is 12 years old? That his daughter wears hand-me-downs? So poverty is a crime now? Poverty plus proximity to billions equals motive." Wu's expression softened slightly. "Victoria, your parents built this empire. We're trying to protect it, and you." "From what? From someone genuine? From feeling human for once?" "From being exploited," Blackstone stood. "The board strongly advises you to distance yourself from this situation. Immediately." Victoria's hands trembled. "And if I don't?" "Then we'll call an emergency shareholder meeting to discuss your fitness as CEO." The threat hung in the air like smog. Victoria looked at each face around the table, people she'd known for years, who'd praised her business acumen, who'd celebrated her victories. Now they watched her like handlers eyeing an unpredictable asset. "I need to think." "Think quickly," Blackstone said. "The longer this continues, the more damage to our reputation." Victoria's driver took her straight to the airport. During the flight to Virginia, she tried calling Caleb repeatedly. No answer. She understood pride was his armor, and that armor had been shattered in public. But when she reached Maplewood that evening, she found his house dark. A note on the door, "At the church." She drove to the small white building, finding Caleb alone, in a back pew, head bowed. The sanctuary was dim, lit only by the eternal flame and streetlight through stained glass. "The reporters finally gave up," he said without looking up. "Figured I'd wait here till they got bored." Victoria slid in beside him. "Caleb, I'm so sorry. This is my fault, my world bleeding into yours." Lily cried herself to sleep. Other kids' parents saw the news, started asking questions. "We'll fight back. I'll call every editor, demand retractions." "Stop." His voice was hollow. "Please, just stop." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Don't you see? This is what I was afraid of. Not the money, the circus. The way everything gets twisted." He finally looked at her, eyes red-rimmed. "My daughter asked me tonight if I was trying to trick you." "My own daughter? She doesn't believe that. She shouldn't have to wonder." He stood. "Victoria, you've brought light into our lives, but your world? It's too bright. It burns." "So that's it? You're giving up?" "I'm protecting my daughter. She's already lost her mother. She can't lose her faith in her father, too. Caleb, please, stay away. Let this die down. Let us fade back into the background where we belong." He walked out, footsteps echoing in the empty church. Victoria sat alone in the pew, the weight of 2 worlds, his and hers, crushing her from both sides. 3 days passed in silence. Caleb threw himself into work at the VA center, fixing wheelchairs with fierce concentration, avoiding conversation. The veterans noticed but said nothing. They understood walls built from pain. That evening, twilight painted Maplewood in shades of purple and gold. Caleb walked up his driveway, exhausted, and stopped short. Victoria sat on his porch steps, still in her business suit from whatever meeting she'd fled. Her eyes were puffy, makeup smudged. "You haven't answered my calls. There's nothing to say. There's everything to say." She stood, wobbling slightly in her heels on the uneven boards. "Caleb, we can face this together. I've dealt with tabloids my whole life. They're vultures, but they move on to fresh meat eventually. This isn't about tabloids." "Then what?" "It's about dignity." His voice rose, then caught. "I fought for my country. 2 tours in Afghanistan. Watched friends die. Came home to hold my wife's hand while cancer ate her alive. I've fought every day since to raise my daughter right, to show her that character matters more than circumstances." Victoria stepped toward him, but he backed away. "I won't let the world paint me as some beggar chasing your fortune. I won't let them make Lily ashamed of her father. She could never be ashamed of you. She already questions it. You didn't see her face when kids at school asked if Daddy was trying to marry the rich lady for money." His hands shook. "I've got nothing, Victoria. Nothing but my honor. And now they're trying to take that too. Your honor isn't what newspapers say in a small town. That's exactly what it is. These people have known me since I came back from the war. They've watched me bury Rachel, watched me struggle. Their respect is all I have to give Lily. If I lose that—" Victoria reached for him again, tears streaming. "Please don't do this. Don't let them win. They've already won." The words came out broken. "Look at us. Look what they've turned us into. You're crying on my porch. I'm sending away the first person who's made me feel alive in 3 years. This isn't winning, Victoria. This is surviving." The screen door creaked. Lily stood there in her nightgown, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Miss Victoria, why are you crying?" Victoria knelt down, trying to smile through her tears. "Oh, sweetheart, don't leave us." Lily rushed forward, wrapping her small arms around Victoria's neck. "Please don't leave. You make Daddy smile. You make everything better." Caleb's chest constricted. "Lily, honey, come here." "No!" She clung tighter to Victoria. "You're being mean, Daddy. She's our friend. She's our answer. I prayed for her." "Lily." His voice was gentle but firm. He walked over and carefully pulled his daughter away. "Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices." "This isn't hard, it's stupid." Lily's face crumpled. "Mommy wouldn't want you to be alone. She wouldn't want you to be sad. Baby girl. She was our answer, Daddy. God sent her and you're sending her away." Victoria stood slowly, her face a masterpiece of controlled devastation. She touched Lily's cheek once, softly. "Your daddy's trying to protect you, sweetheart. That's what good fathers do." She looked at Caleb, and for a moment neither spoke. The weight of unspoken words hung between them, promises unmade, futures unimagined, love undefined, and now indefinitely suspended. "Goodbye, Caleb." She walked to her car, each step measured and final. The engine started, headlights cutting through the gathering darkness. Lily broke free and ran after the car, barefoot on the gravel. "Come back, please, come back." But the taillights disappeared around the corner, swallowed by the night. Caleb caught up to Lily, scooping her into his arms as she sobbed against his shoulder. Her small body shook with the force of her grief. "Why, Daddy? Why did you send her away?" He carried her inside, sinking into his old armchair, with her still clinging to him. The house felt emptier than it had even after Rachel died. At least then he'd had the numbness of fresh grief. Now he felt everything, the weight of his choice, the echo of Victoria's tears, the shutting of a door he'd barely allowed himself to believe was open. "She was our answer," Lily whispered into his shirt, her voice small and broken. "I prayed every night, and God sent her, and you sent her away." Caleb held his daughter tighter, his own tears finally coming. He'd survived war. He'd survived widowhood. But this, breaking his daughter's heart to save her from a different kind of breaking, this might be the thing that finally destroyed him. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Outside, crickets sang their evening chorus, indifferent to the small tragedy playing out in the modest house. The paper heart Lily had made for Victoria still sat on the kitchen table, forgotten in the chaos of the last week. Caleb stared at it over his daughter's head, wondering if he'd just made the most honorable choice of his life, or the most foolish. The silence stretched on, broken only by Lily's quiet sobs and the terrible certainty that he'd just sent away the answer to prayers he'd been too proud to pray. Morning came without mercy. The kitchen clock ticked through breakfast, each second marking time in a house that felt hollowed out. Lily pushed scrambled eggs around her plate, creating patterns she didn't eat. The paper heart sat between them on the table, its crayon colors bright against the worn wood. "Not hungry, baby girl?" Lily shook her head, still staring at the heart. Her finger traced the edge where she'd written, "For Miss Victoria," in careful letters. "She kept it, Daddy. When I gave it to her at the VA center, she put it right in her pocket like it was something special." Caleb's throat tightened. "Eat a little something. You've got school. Sarah's mom says Miss Victoria went back to the city. Sarah's mom should mind her own business. Is she coming back?" The hope in her voice cut deep. Caleb reached across the table, covering her small hand with his. "I don't think so, sweetheart." Lily pulled her hand away. She picked up the paper heart, holding it against her chest. "Then I want to keep this one. So I remember." "Lily, I need my backpack." She slipped from her chair, the heart clutched in her fist. Her footsteps on the stairs sounded heavier than any 10-year-old should. At the VA center, Caleb's hands moved through familiar motions. "Tighten this bolt, oil that wheel. Check the brake alignment." The wheelchair he worked on belonged to Tommy Rodriguez, who'd lost his legs in Kandahar. Tommy watched him work, saying nothing for a long while. "You look like hell, Turner." "Thanks. Real helpful." "Just an observation." Tommy wheeled closer in his temporary chair. "Heard that rich lady left town." Caleb's wrench slipped, skinning his knuckle. He swore under his breath. "Also heard you sent her packing. You hear a lot for someone who claims he minds his own business." "Never claimed that." Tommy studied him. "You know what your problem is? You think suffering makes you noble. Like there's some prize for who can carry the most weight alone. I've got work to do, Tommy. Rachel wouldn't want this for you." The wrench clattered to the floor. Caleb stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. "Don't. Someone needs to. You're so busy protecting that girl from getting hurt, you don't see you're hurting her worse." Caleb walked away, leaving Tommy's wheelchair half finished. In the recreation room, his guitar waited in its usual corner. He picked it up, muscle memory positioning his fingers on the frets. The first chord came out wrong, the second worse. His hands wouldn't cooperate, wouldn't find the music that usually came so easily. "You okay, brother?" Marcus, another regular, looked up from his chess game. "Fine. Your playing says different." Caleb set the guitar down. "Think I'm coming down with something." "Yeah." Marcus moved a pawn. "It's called being a damn fool." The drive home felt longer than usual. Every landmark reminded him of Victoria. The coffee shop where she'd bought Lily hot chocolate. The corner where she'd helped him change a flat tire, laughing at her own incompetence with a lug wrench. The park bench where they'd sat watching Lily feed ducks, talking about nothing and everything. He found Lily on the couch, homework untouched, staring at nothing. She'd changed into her pajamas already, though it was barely 6 o'clock. Homework? Did it at school. All of it? She shrugged. He sat beside her, and she curled into his side automatically, a habit from toddlerhood she'd never outgrown. They sat in silence, watching dust motes drift through the fading sunlight. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby? Maybe God forgot us." The words landed like physical blows. Caleb pulled her closer, pressing his lips to the top of her head. "God never forgets anyone, sweetheart. Never." "Then why did he take Mommy? Why did he send Miss Victoria if we couldn't keep her?" "I don't have all the answers, Lily. I wish I did." "Mrs. Patterson says, God works in mysterious ways. Her voice was small, tired. I don't like mysteries anymore. They ate dinner in near silence, canned soup and grilled cheese, the extent of Caleb's culinary ambitions these days. Lily went to bed without being asked, kissing his cheek with a solemnity that belonged on someone much older. Caleb stood in her doorway, watching her sleep. The paper heart lay on her nightstand, next to the picture of Rachel. His wife smiled from the frame, frozen in a moment of joy from before the cancer, before everything fell apart. I'm trying, Rach, he whispered. I'm trying to do right by her. But the house offered no absolution, no sign that he'd chosen correctly. Just silence and the growing certainty that pride made a cold bedfellow. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every sound seemed amplified: the settling of old wood, the hum of the refrigerator, the absence of laughter. His mind replayed Victoria's tears, Lily's pleas, his own stubborn insistence on standing alone. Maybe God didn't forget us, he thought. Maybe I just refused to see what he sent. The clock beside his bed glowed. 2:47 a.m. Somewhere in the city, Victoria was probably awake too. Or maybe she wasn't. Maybe she'd already moved on, returned to her world of boardrooms and benefits, forgotten the brief detour into their small life. The thought shouldn't hurt as much as it did. Caleb closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Just the echo of his daughter's words, over and over, maybe God forgot us, and his own growing fear that God hadn't forgotten them at all, that he'd sent exactly what they needed, and Caleb had been too proud, too afraid, too broken to accept it. The 32nd floor conference room stretched before Victoria like a battlefield. Crystal decanters caught morning light, throwing rainbow fragments across mahogany that cost more than most people's cars. She sat at the head of the table, spine straight, while 12 board members dissected her life with surgical precision. The quarterly projections are suffering. Harrison Clark, her CFO, slid a tablet across the table. Consumer confidence has dropped 7% since your involvement with this situation. His name is Caleb Turner. The single father, yes. Margaret Wu, head of public relations, pulled up her phone. The one who's currently trending on 3 major gossip sites. Billionaire heiress played for a fool. That's today's headline. I wasn't played for anything. Perception is reality in our world. Harrison's fingers drummed. Against leather. You've built an empire on image, Victoria. Stability, sound judgment. This man has more integrity in his little finger than anyone in this room. Silence fell like a hammer. Board members exchanged glances, the kind that said volumes without words. Victoria. Richard Blackstone, her mentor and the closest thing she had to a father figure, leaned forward. We're not questioning his character, we're protecting yours. The shareholders are nervous. They see you in tabloids instead of financial papers. They see you in some backwater town instead of closing deals in Tokyo or London. Maybe I'm tired of Tokyo and London. You don't get to be tired. Margaret's voice carried the weight of decades in crisis management. You're Victoria Hale. Your great-grandfather built this company from nothing. Your father expanded it globally. You've taken it to heights they never imagined. And now you want to throw it away for what? A fantasy? The words stung because they echoed her own fears. Victoria stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled below, all glass and steel and endless possibility. Her city, her kingdom. I need you to distance yourself. Harrison's reflection appeared beside hers in the glass. Publicly. Make a statement that it was a charitable interest, nothing more. The news cycle will move on, and if I don't, then we'll be forced to consider whether your personal choices are compromising your ability to lead this company. The threat hung between them, unspoken but understood. They could force her out. Golden parachute aside, they could take the only thing her family had left her, the legacy, the purpose, the identity she'd wrapped around herself like armor. I'll consider it. She left them there, arguing amongst themselves about damage control and press strategies. The elevator descended in silence, each floor marking her retreat from the battlefield above. The lobby teemed with paparazzi. They pressed against security barriers, cameras flashing, voices creating a wall of sound. "Victoria, is it true you were scammed? Did the single dad seduce you for money? How much did you give him before you found out?" She kept walking, heels clicking against marble, sunglasses hiding the hurt that threatened to spill over. Her driver held the car door open, and she slipped inside, escaping into leather and tinted glass. The penthouse offered no relief. It felt larger than usual, every room echoing with absence. She kicked off her heels, padding barefoot across Persian rugs that cost more than Caleb's house. The irony wasn't lost on her. Surrounded by priceless things, she'd never felt more worthless. Bentley found her on the couch, pressing his golden head against her leg. She stroked his fur absently, remembering how Lily had squealed with delight when she'd brought him to visit. The child had declared him the best dog in the whole world and taught him to shake hands, patient and gentle, despite his size. "We had something real, didn't we, boy?" Bentley's tail thumped agreement. She ordered takeout Thai from the place that usually brought comfort, but it sat untouched on the coffee table. Her phone buzzed constantly. Financial advisors, PR teams, her personal trainer wondering why she'd missed 3 sessions. The latest gossip rag lay beside the pad Thai, its headline screaming, "Billionaire's Folly." How a small-town con artist nearly scored big. The article was cruel, painting Caleb as calculating and her as pathetic. They'd found photos from his military service, from Rachel's funeral, even one of Lily at school. The violation of it made her sick. She crumpled the paper, then smoothed it out, then crumpled it again. "They can take my fortune, but they can't take my heart." The words surprised her, spoken aloud to the empty room. But they felt true, felt like the first honest thing she'd said in days. Her phone rang. "Richard Blackstone. Victoria, we need an answer. The Japanese investors are threatening to pull out if you don't stabilize this situation." "Let them." "You don't mean that." "Don't I?" She stood, walking to her wall of achievements. Degrees, awards, magazine covers declaring her the youngest female billionaire in America. "What has any of this gotten me, Richard? This apartment? These things? I eat dinner alone. I wake up alone. I have everything and nothing all at once. You have a responsibility. To whom? Shareholders who don't know my middle name? Board members who see me as a stock price? To your family legacy. My family is dead, Richard. Every last one of them. And you know what? I think they'd be ashamed of what I've become. A woman too afraid to choose happiness because it might affect quarterly earnings." She hung up. The phone immediately rang again. She turned it off. For the first time in years, maybe ever, Victoria Hale felt clarity crystallizing in her chest. Not the false clarity of acquisition or merger, but something deeper. Something that had nothing to do with net worth and everything to do with worth itself. She thought of Caleb's hands, calloused from honest work, of Lily's laugh, bright and unguarded, of dinners at a scratch table that filled her more than any 5-star restaurant ever had. They wanted her to choose between wealth and love, as if the two were mutually exclusive. But sitting here in her golden cage, she finally understood the truth. Without love, wealth was just numbers on a screen. Without family, success was just a pretty epitaph. Bentley whined, sensing her turmoil. "What do you think, boy? Should we fight for them?" His tail wagged, and she took it as a yes. 3 days had passed since Victoria left. The morning sun filtered through worn curtains as Caleb worked in the garage, his hands deep in the engine of Mrs. Patterson's old sedan. The rhythmic clink of tools against metal provided a steady soundtrack to his concentration. Lily watched from the doorway, clutching her school notebook. She'd been planning this for 2 days, waiting for the right moment. Her father's back was turned, grease-stained shirt stretched across his shoulders as he leaned into his work. She slipped away. In her room she pulled out her best stationery, the butterfly paper Grandma had given her last Christmas. Her tongue poked out in concentration as she formed each letter carefully, the pencil gripping tight in her small hand. Dear Miss Victoria. She erased it. Started again. Miss Victoria, Daddy says no to money, but he needs love. I think you're the answer to my prayer. The pencil moved slowly, deliberately. She wanted every word to be perfect, the way Miss Jenkins taught them in English class. When you were here, Daddy smiled, real smiles. Not the kind he does for me when he's sad, but trying. The kind that made his whole face happy. She paused, chewing the eraser. A bird landed on her windowsill, chirping encouragement. I know the mean people in the newspapers said bad things. Daddy threw them away, but I saw one at school. They don't know us. They don't know how Daddy reads me stories even when he's tired. Or how you laughed at our small table like it was the best place in the world. Her hand was getting tired, but she pressed on. Please don't forget us. I pray every night that you'll come back. I told God you're supposed to be my mommy. He doesn't make mistakes. Love. Lily P.S. Bentley can visit any time he want. She folded the paper carefully 3 times, making sure the edges lined up. The envelope was trickier. She had to write Victoria's name from memory, copying what she'd seen on the fancy letter that came before. Now came the hard part. Mr. Thompson was watering his roses next door. He'd always been kind, sneaking her peppermints at church and complimenting her drawings. She approached the fence, letter hidden behind her back. Mr. Thompson? Well, hello there, sunshine. How's your daddy? He's fixing Mrs. Patterson's car. She shifted her weight, gathering courage. Can you help me with something? It's really important. His weathered face crinkled with concern. What kind of help? She produced the letter, holding it out with both hands. Can you mail this? I have $3 from my piggy bank. Mr. Thompson knelt down, his knees protesting. He looked at the address, recognition dawning in his eyes. This for that lady who was visiting? Lily nodded, eyes wide and pleading. Your daddy know about this? He will. After. Please, Mr. Thompson. Daddy's too proud to ask for help, but I'm not. And it's not about money. It's about love. The old man studied her face, saw Rachel's determination mixed with Caleb's honesty. He took the letter gently. Keep your $3, sunshine. Buy yourself an ice cream. You'll mail it today? Promise? Cross my heart. She hugged him quickly, then darted back home before Caleb noticed her absence. That evening, dinner was quieter than usual. Caleb had made spaghetti Lily's favorite, but she only twirled her fork, creating patterns in the sauce. Not hungry, sweetheart? I'm hungry, but she didn't eat. Caleb set down his own fork, studying his daughter. Her shoulders were drawn up, the way they got when she was keeping something inside. He'd seen that look before, usually preceding confessions about broken vases or borrowed without asking toys. Something on your mind? She looked up, brown eyes serious behind her glasses. Daddy? Yeah? If you do something because you love someone, even if they might get mad, is it still good? He considered this, recognizing the moral puzzle she was working through. Depends on what it is, I suppose. Did you do something? Her chin lifted, a gesture so like her mother it made his chest ache. I did something that might make you mad, Daddy. But I hope it makes you happy instead. Caleb frowned, scenarios running through his mind. Had she talked to reporters? Called Victoria somehow? Lily, I can't tell you yet, but it wasn't bad. It was hope. The word hung between them. Hope. Such a fragile thing these days, yet his daughter wielded it like a sword against the darkness that had crept into their home. Okay, he said finally, but if this something involves other people, you'll tell me? When it's time. He reached across the table, taking her small hand in his calloused one. I trust you, baby girl, but no more secrets after this, okay? Okay, Daddy. She squeezed his hand, and for the first time in 3 days, she smiled, really smiled. That spark he'd feared was dimming blazed bright in her eyes. They finished dinner in companionable silence, but the air felt different. Lighter somehow, as if Lily's hope was contagious, spreading through the small kitchen like warmth from the stove. That night, as Caleb tucked her in, she grabbed his hand before he could leave. "Daddy, do you believe in answers to prayers?" He sat on the edge of her bed. "I do. Even when they don't come the way we expect? Especially then." She nodded, satisfied, and closed her eyes. As he pulled the door partly shut, he heard her whisper into the darkness, "Please let it work. Please let her read it. Please bring her home." Victoria sat in her office, sorting through the stack of mail her assistant had deemed personal attention required. Most were charity requests, some investment proposals, all seeking her money. Her fingers paused on a small, creased envelope with her name written in careful, childlike script. The return address made her heart stop. Turner, Maplewood. She tore it open with trembling hands. "Dear Miss Victoria, Daddy says no to money, but he needs love. I think you're the answer to my prayer. Please don't forget us. I told God you're supposed to be my mommy. He doesn't make mistakes. Love, Lily. P.S. Bentley can visit any time he want." The words blurred as tears came fast and hard. Victoria pressed the letter to her chest, feeling something crack open inside her, not breaking, but breaking free. "Cancel everything," she told her assistant, grabbing her keys. "Ms. Hale, the board meeting. Cancel it. The investors from Tokyo. All of it. Cancel all of it." She drove the 3 hours to Maplewood, with Lily's letter on the passenger seat, glancing at it at every red light. The words seemed to glow with their simple truth. Not a child's fantasy, but wisdom that cut through every complication adults created. The sun was setting when she reached the familiar street. She parked outside the small house, noting the bicycle still leaning against the porch, the evening light warm in the windows. Her hands shook as she walked up the path she'd fled just days ago. She knocked, her heart hammering. Footsteps approached. The door opened, and there stood Caleb, tired, unshaven, beautiful in his brokenness. His eyes widened. "Victoria?" She held out Lily's letter, her voice catching on the words she'd rehearsed the entire drive. "You didn't refuse the reward because of pride, Caleb." He stared at the paper, recognition and something like fear crossing his face. "You refused it because love was the only treasure you wanted to give your daughter." Her tears came freely now. "That's why I'm here. Not to buy you, to belong with you." For a moment, Caleb stood frozen. Then his shoulders sagged, walls crumbling like sand castles against the tide. He reached for her, pulling her across the threshold and into his arms. "You came back." Lily flew down the stairs, her socked feet skidding on the wood floor. She crashed into them both, her small arms trying to encompass them together. "You got my letter. I knew you would. I knew it." Victoria dropped to her knees, gathering Lily close, while Caleb's hand found her shoulder. "Of course I got it, sweetheart. How could I stay away after that? I told Daddy I did something that might make him mad." Lily peeked up at her father. "Are you mad?" Caleb knelt too, joining their embrace on the entry floor. "No, baby girl. Not mad. Not anymore." They stayed there, the three of them tangled together while dusk painted the walls purple and gold. Victoria felt Lily's tears on her neck, Caleb's rough cheek against her temple. This was what she'd been searching for in boardrooms and charity galas, this moment, this connection, this coming home. "I tried to stay away," Victoria whispered against Caleb's shoulder. The board said. The media. Everything in my world said this was impossible. "Nothing's impossible," Lily said firmly. "That's what Daddy taught me. And what Mommy used to say. Right, Daddy?" Caleb's voice was rough. "Right." Victoria pulled back enough to see their faces. Caleb's eyes were wet. His pride dissolved into something softer, truer. Lily beamed between them, her gap-toothed smile radiant with joy. "The world's going to talk," Caleb warned quietly. They'll say terrible things. Let 'em." Victoria touched his face, feeling the stubble, the warmth, the reality of him. "I've lived my whole life listening to what the world says. I'm done with that." "My daughter," he started. "Our daughter," Victoria interrupted, looking down at Lily. "If she'll have me." Lily's squeal could probably be heard 3 houses down. "Yes, yes, yes, yes." She bounced between them, her braids flying. "Can I call you Mommy? Is that okay? Daddy, is that okay?" Caleb looked at Victoria, a question in his eyes that went beyond words. She nodded, understanding. They weren't just choosing each other. They were choosing to become something new, something whole. "We'll figure it out as we go," Victoria said. "All of it. The media, the money, the differences. None of that matters as much as this." "This?" Caleb asked. "Family." The word felt like a prayer on her lips. "The 3 of us. Together." Lily threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I knew God would answer. He just needed time to make you both ready." Over Lily's head, Caleb and Victoria's eyes met. In them was fear, yes, and uncertainty about the path ahead. But stronger than both was love, not the easy love of fairy tales, but the brave love of choosing each other despite the obstacles. "Come on," Caleb said, standing and offering his hands to pull them up. "Dinner's getting cold. Nothing fancy, just perfect," Victoria finished. "It's perfect." As they walked toward the kitchen, Lily between them holding both their hands, Victoria felt the last of her old life fall away. The boardroom battles, the empty penthouse, the loneliness disguised as independence, none of it followed her across this threshold. She was home. The church bells rang out across Maplewood that Sunday morning, their bronze voices calling the faithful to worship. Victoria smoothed her simple dress, one she'd bought at the local department store, nothing like her designer wardrobe, and watched Lily bounce ahead of them up the church steps. "Everyone's gonna be so happy." Lily spun around, her yellow sundress flaring. "I told Mrs. Henderson you were coming back to stay." Caleb chuckled, taking Victoria's elbow as they climbed. "Mrs. Henderson tells everyone everything. The whole town probably knows by now." "Good." Victoria surprised herself with the certainty in her voice. "I'm done hiding." The heavy oak doors opened, and the familiar scent of old wood and candle wax welcomed them. But this time, something was different. Instead of curious stares and hushed whispers, faces turned toward them with genuine warmth. Mrs. Chen from the bakery waved. Old Mr. Jameson tipped his hat. The Rodriguez family scooted over to make room in their pew. "Well, look at that," Caleb murmured. "No pitchforks." Victoria nudged him with her shoulder. "Were you expecting pitchforks? After those headlines?" "Maybe a little." They settled into the worn wooden pew, Lily between them, swinging her legs. The morning sun streamed through stained glass, painting rainbows across the congregation. Victoria found herself relaxing into the rhythm of it, the opening hymn, the readings, the comfortable faith that filled this space. Pastor Green took the pulpit, his weathered face kind above his clerical collar. "Before we begin today's sermon, I'd like to offer a special prayer." The congregation quieted. "For families," he continued, his gaze finding them, "new families and restored families. For those who find each other not through blood, but through choice. For the courage to build something beautiful despite what the world might say." Lily's small hand found Victoria's, squeezing tight. On her other side, she grabbed Caleb's calloused fingers. The 3 of them connected, a circuit of belonging. "Lord," Pastor Green prayed, "bless those who choose love over fear, faith over doubt, and family over fortune. Show them that your plan is always greater than our own. Amen, amen." The congregation echoed. Lily leaned into Victoria and whispered loud enough for 3 rows to hear, "That prayer was for us." Soft laughter rippled through nearby pews. Mrs. Henderson dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. After service, the congregation spilled out onto the church lawn, where tables groaned under the weight of casseroles, pies, and enough fried chicken to feed an army. The monthly community picnic was in full swing, with children racing between adults' legs and elderly folks holding court in lawn chairs. "Victoria!" Mrs. Rodriguez waved them over. "You're on serving duty with us today." Before Victoria could respond, an apron appeared in her hands. She looked at Caleb, who shrugged with a grin. "Welcome to small-town volunteerism. Resistance is futile." Soon Victoria stood behind the food table, scooping potato salad onto plates while Caleb handled the chicken. They moved in easy rhythm, him making jokes with each person who came through the line, her learning names and stories, the Wheelers' new grandbaby, the Johnsons' son home from college, Mr. Park's tomatoes winning the county fair again. "You know," said Mrs. Chen, working beside her, "I wasn't sure about you at first. Thought you might be playing at being ordinary folk." Victoria paused, unsure how to respond. "But seeing you now, seeing how you look at them, Mrs." Chen nodded toward Caleb and Lily, who were sneaking extra cookies to a group of kids. "That's real. Can't fake that kind of love." "No," Victoria agreed softly. "You can't." The afternoon dissolved into laughter and sunshine. Victoria found herself judging a three-legged race, Lily, her enthusiastic partner. They came in dead last, collapsing in giggles at the finish line. Caleb helped them up, grass stains on Victoria's expensive shoes, joy on all their faces. "You've got grass in your hair," he said, plucking a blade from behind her ear. "You've got barbecue sauce on your shirt," she countered. "Daddy always gets messy at picnics," Lily informed her seriously. "Mommy used to say—" She stopped, glancing between them with sudden uncertainty. Victoria knelt down. "What did Mommy used to say?" Lily bit her lip. "She said Daddy was hopeless at staying clean, but she loved him anyway." "Smart woman." Victoria tucked a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. "Very smart woman." As the sun began its descent, painting the sky orange and pink, families started packing up. Victoria helped fold tables, stack chairs, and somehow ended up in an impromptu dishwashing line in the church kitchen. Her designer watch was soaked, her manicure ruined, and she couldn't remember being happier. "Supper at our place?" Caleb asked as they finally headed to his truck. It wasn't really a question anymore. This was becoming their rhythm, their routine. Where else would I be? The drive home was quiet. Lily dozed in the back seat, exhausted from the day's excitement. Victoria watched the familiar streets pass by, no longer feeling like an outsider looking in. Their kitchen smelled like home coffee and cinnamon, and something indefinable but welcoming. Caleb heated up leftover stew while Victoria helped Lily set the table. No fancy china, no multiple forks, just 3 mismatched plates and the good napkins saved for special occasions. "Tell the story about the camel," Lily demanded once they were seated. "The one from when you were in the army." Caleb groaned. "Again? Please, Daddy?" Victoria hasn't heard it. So Caleb launched into the tale of a training exercise gone wrong, a stubborn camel, and 3 soldiers who ended up in the middle of a bazaar wearing nothing but their boxers and boots. Victoria laughed until her sides hurt, while Lily giggled so hard she nearly fell off her chair. "Is that true?" Victoria gasped. "Every word. Ask Tommy at the VA center. He was one of the other soldiers. The camel ate their uniforms," Lily added helpfully. "All of them." As Caleb continued the story, embellishing with grand gestures and terrible camel impressions, Victoria looked around the small kitchen. The refrigerator covered in Lily's artwork, the herbs growing in tin cans on the windowsill, the chip in the table where someone had dropped something heavy. This was home. Not her penthouse with its skylights and marble counters, but this laughter and stories and people who chose to be together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. "Victoria?" Lily's voice pulled her back. "Are you crying?" She touched her cheek, finding it wet. "Happy tears, sweetheart. Just happy tears." Caleb reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." She turned her palm up, interlacing their fingers. I spent my whole life in big, empty rooms, thinking space meant freedom. But this, she gestured around the cramped kitchen, at the two people who had become her world. This is what I was looking for. We're not fancy, Caleb said quietly. Thank God for that. Lily stood on her chair, raising her glass of milk high. A toast. To our family. Victoria and Caleb raised their glasses, meeting Lily's with gentle clinks. To our family, they echoed. Outside, evening settled over Maplewood. Inside, in a small kitchen that held everything that mattered, three people who had found each other against all odds shared a meal, their laughter rising like a prayer of gratitude into the night. 6 weeks had passed since that Sunday picnic, and Maplewood had settled into accepting what everyone now called the miracle. Victoria's sleek car had become as familiar on Main Street as old Pete's rusty pickup. Her designer heels clicked against the VA Center's worn linoleum as naturally as combat boots once had. The warm evening painted everything golden as Victoria emerged from the new computer lab she'd funded at the elementary school. Caleb waited by the entrance. Toolbox in hand, he'd insisted on installing the shelving himself, refusing to let contractors do what he could manage. Ready? He wiped his hands on his jeans, leaving a smudge of dust across the worn denim. Almost. Victoria checked her phone one last time, forwarding final instructions to her assistant. Her board had stopped fighting her presence in Maplewood. Once quarterly reports showed her renewed focus had actually improved company performance. Happiness, it turned out, was good for business. Lily burst through the doors, backpack bouncing. Can we get ice cream? After dinner, Caleb and Victoria said in unison, then caught each other's eyes and laughed. They walked toward the town square, Lily between them, her small hands clasped in theirs. She'd grown 2 inches since spring, her uniform needing hemming again. Victoria had offered to buy new ones, but Caleb insisted on handling it his way, trading repair work at the school for credit at the uniform shop. "Swing me," Lily demanded, and they obliged, lifting her off the ground every few steps while she squealed with delight. The square buzzed with evening life. Teenagers clustered near the fountain, elderly couples occupied benches, and young families pushed strollers along the paths. Everyone waved or nodded as they passed, not with the curiosity of before, but with genuine warmth. "Evening, Caleb." "Victoria," Mrs. Patterson called from the flower shop. "Lily, you tell your daddy thank you for fixing my door. He's good at fixing things," Lily announced proudly. "He fixed our whole life." Caleb's cheeks reddened, but Victoria squeezed his hand. "She's not wrong." They paused at the Veterans Memorial, where Tommy Martinez sat in his wheelchair, enjoying the evening air. Caleb had built him a ramp to his apartment, Victoria had covered his medical bills, and together they'd given him back his independence. "Looking good, Tommy," Caleb said. "Feeling good, brother, thanks to you both." Tommy's eyes crinkled with gratitude. "You heading to the concert?" The town square hosted local musicians every Friday evening, now another of Victoria's quiet contributions. Tonight the high school band would perform, and half the town would turn out with lawn chairs and blankets. "Wouldn't miss it," Victoria said. "Lily's been practicing her dancing all week." As they continued walking, Lily hummed her favorite hymn from last Sunday's service, something about amazing grace and once being lost. The melody drifted through the square like a blessing. "Miss Victoria?" Lily asked suddenly. "Are you gonna marry Daddy?" Caleb nearly tripped. Victoria steadied him, fighting her own smile. "Lily, that's not—" Caleb started. "It's okay." Victoria knelt to Lily's level. "Your daddy and I are taking things one day at a time, but I promise you this, I'm not going anywhere." "Good." Lily nodded decisively. "Because Sarah's mom says you two are meant to be, and I think she's right." They found a spot on the grass as the band began setting up. Other families spread blankets nearby, kids running between them in elaborate games of tag. This was Maplewood at its finest, simple pleasures. Genuine connections, real community. Pastor Green stopped by their blanket. Good to see you all. Victoria, the youth group, wanted me to thank you for the new van. The old one was a death trap, she said simply. And please, tell them the thanks goes both ways. They've taught me more about faith than any sermon could. As twilight deepened, the concert began. The teenage musicians were enthusiastic, if not entirely polished, but the crowd cheered like they were at Carnegie Hall. Lily danced barefoot on the grass, spinning and laughing, her joy infectious. During a softer song, Caleb pulled Victoria close. You know what I was thinking about today? What's that? That day you offered me $1 million. His voice was thoughtful. I turned it down because I thought accepting help meant being weak, but you taught me something. What? That real strength is letting people in, letting them love you even when you feel unworthy of it. Victoria's eyes misted. You taught me something too. Yeah? That all the money in the world can't buy what matters. It can't buy Lily's laugh, or your integrity, or the way Mrs. Henderson saves me the best tomatoes at the farmer's market because she knows I'm trying to learn to cook. The music swelled around them. Lily had recruited several other children for an impromptu dance circle, their shadows long in the setting sun. We may not have $1 million, Caleb whispered, his breath warm against her ear, but we have something richer. Victoria turned to face him fully, her hand finding his weathered cheek. A family. A family, he agreed, and kissed her forehead gently. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in purples and pinks. The music continued, young voices rising in harmony. Around them, Maplewood lived and breathed and loved, a testament to the truth that community and connection matter more than any fortune. Lily ran back to them, breathless and glowing. Come dance with me. Both of you. They stood, hands clasped tightly together, the veteran, the billionaire, and the little girl who had prayed them into each other's lives. As they walked toward the makeshift dance floor, their shadows merged into one. The townsfolk watched with quiet admiration. Mrs. Chen whispered to her husband about miracles. Old Pete wiped his eyes and blamed allergies. The teenagers took photos, not for gossip, but to capture something precious and real. Under the first stars of evening, three people who had once been broken in their own ways moved together in perfect harmony. They had discovered that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the moments that took your breath away, in the hands that held yours when you stumbled, in the voices that called you home. Their future stretched ahead, uncertain in its details, but solid in its foundation of love, faith, and hope renewed. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And in a small town called Maplewood, where ordinary miracles happened every day, that was more than enough. It was everything. If you enjoyed the story, I handpicked this next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.